1 Samuel chapter 23. And they declared to David, saying, Behold, the Philistines are fighting against Keilah, and they are spoiling the threshing-floors. And David inquires of Yahweh, saying, Do I go? And have I struck among these Philistines? And Yahweh says to David, Go, and you have struck among the Philistines, and saved Keilah. And David's men say to him, Behold, we here in Judah are afraid, and how much more when we go to Keilah, to the ranks of the Philistines? And David adds again to inquire of Yahweh, and Yahweh answers him and says, Rise, go down to Keilah, for I am giving the Philistines into your hand. And David goes and his men to Keilah, and fights with the Philistines, and leads away their livestock, and strikes among them with a great striking. And David saves the inhabitants of Keilah. And it comes to pass in the fleeing of Abiathar son of Ahimelech to David to Keilah, an ephod came down in his hand. And it is declared to Saul that David has come to Keilah. And Saul says, God has made him known for my hand, for he has been shut in to enter into a city of doors and bar. And Saul summons all the people to the battle, to go down to Keilah, to lay siege to David and to his men. And David knows that Saul is devising the evil against him, and says to Abiathar the priest, Bring the ephod near. And David says, Yahweh, God of Israel, your servant has certainly heard that Saul is seeking to come to Keilah, to destroy the city on my account. Do the possessors of Keilah shut me up into his hand? Does Saul come down as your servant has heard? Yahweh, God of Israel, please declare it to your servant. And Yahweh says, He comes down. And David says, Do the possessors of Keilah shut up me and my men into the hand of Saul? And Yahweh says, They shut you up. And David rises and his men, about 600 men, and they go out from Keilah, and go up and down where they go up and down. And it has been declared to Saul that David has escaped from Keilah, and he ceases to go out. And David abides in the wilderness, in fortresses, and abides in the hill country, in the wilderness of Ziph. And Saul seeks him for all the days, and God has not given him into his hand. And David sees that Saul has come out to seek his life, and David is in the wilderness of Ziph, in a forest. And Jonathan, son of Saul, rises, and goes to David in the forest, and strengthens his hand in God, and says to him, Do not fear, for the hand of my father Saul does not find you, and you reign over Israel, and I am to you for second. And also so knows my father Saul. And both of them make a covenant before Yahweh, and David abides in the forest, and Jonathan has gone to his house. And the Ziphites go up to Saul at Gibeah, saying, Is David not hiding himself with us in fortresses, in the forest, in the height of Hachilah, which is on the south of the desolate place? And now, by all the desire of your soul, O king, to come down, and ours is to shut him up into the hand of the king. And Saul says, Blessed are you of Yahweh, for you have pity on me. Now go, prepare yet, and know and see his place where his foot is. And who has seen him there? For one has said to me, He is very cunning. And see and know of all the hiding places where he hides himself. And you have turned back, prepared to me, and I have gone with you. And it has been, if he is in the land, that I have searched him out through all the thousands of Judah. And they rise and go to Ziph before Saul. And David and his men are in the wilderness of Maon, in the plain, at the south of the desolate place. And Saul and his men go to seek, and they declare it to David. And he goes down the rock, and abides in the wilderness of Maon. And Saul hears, and pursues after David to the wilderness of Maon. And Saul goes on this side of the mountain, and David and his men on that side of the mountain. And David is hurried to go from the face of Saul. And Saul and his men are surrounding David and his men, to catch them. And a messenger has come to Saul, saying, Hurry and come, for the Philistines have pushed against the land. And Saul turns back from pursuing after David, and goes to meet the Philistines. Therefore they have called that place the rock of divisions. And David goes up there and abides in fortresses at En-gedi.